feel free to remove your mask because it makes it easier for us to know what's going on, unless you really feel that you know.
Pretend you're in a restaurant.
I haven't gone down to restaurant recently. Only eating home at home. Thank you. We got the planning commission hearing last month. That's the full session. So we are here for another hearing. We are very happy to be here. Thanks for your time. We'll be ready and happy to answer any questions you have regarding that question.
Okay, thank you. At this point, we'll open the public hearing. Does anybody wish to speak in regards to the application?
Thank you.
Please identify yourself.
My name is Christine Smith. I live in the Piedmont District. I represent the Piedmont District on the Board of Supervisors. And I wanted to come today just to kind of talk about a few items involved in the history of this property, of which the board might not be aware. And I thank you for your time, and also to the new owners of the property for endeavoring to approach their project in the right way and seeing so thoroughly through the processes that the county requires. I just wanted to mention a few things about this property that you all might not know. In the early summer of 2020, I started receiving complaints about this property and the many outbuildings that were on it. It had really become burdened with a lot of unsightly outbuildings, including yurts and porta potties and campers and, you know, just strewn all over. And that went on, and I had complaints that the buildings were being built too close to the property line, which it turned out to be true. To give you an idea of how long it takes to set things right, through bureaucratic processes and not through any fault of the current owners, who seem like really delightful people, it took until late fall of 2021 for these concerns to be addressed. The Mauries aren't here tonight. I certainly don't speak on their behalf, but I think they've made it clear in previous meetings some of the difficulties that have arisen through the way the buildings were built out on this property, through no fault of the current owners. There is also, and I'm sure you all saw it in your packet, a large building to the left of what's labeled the house. I don't really know that building. I've never been on the property because it is gated. I understand that was sort of designated agricultural in nature. It looks like a heck of an agricultural building. That's all I'm going to say. And it may be one of those things that, you know, we try to have strict zoning to prevent things from happening, but that building has been the subject of a lot of questions. I would just ask you to pump the brakes and please look very carefully at this application, especially the intensity with which the property may be used with that second building on the property. I don't know if there's grounds for you to deny the application or if you are leaning that way. I'm sorry that our Piedmont District representative on the Planning Commission abstained from this vote. I would have been curious to know how she would have voted on it. The purpose of good zoning and planning is to create a harmonious community. And I just hope that whatever happens as an outcome of this application, there will be a little more harmony for the neighbors. If you're not able to deny the application, which you may choose not to, I would ask that you add a couple of additional layers to the requirements for approval. In addition to capping the overnight guests at 6 overnight guests, I would ask that you cap the number of folks that can be on the property in the course of the daytime, as we have done with many businesses throughout the years, including Williams in his special exception, so that even though 6 folks may be staying the night, there aren't a lot of day visitors to the property. I would ask that you specifically enumerate that there be no events of any kind allowed on the property. No services, no parties, no weddings, no events, profit or non-profit, on the property, because I think this is a property that could be ripe for that sort of thing. And I would also ask that you consider doing one other thing, which in my opinion maybe isn't done often enough, and think about imposing a term on the approval and setting an expiration date of January 2024. I do think the new owners have good intentions. Having guidelines that everyone understands and a deadline for that to expire and there to be a renewal of the application and revisit how things have gone and see if anything else is necessary for the future would probably be advantageous for all the parties that are involved. And I don't think it is overly onerous or prohibitive for the current owners, who I know are trying to do the right thing. So again, I understand not every property is for every use, and this may be an occasion where you want to look a little deeper and possibly deny the application. But if you should choose to approve it, please consider putting additional requirements on it, such as capping day users, prohibiting events of any kind, and putting an expiration date on it of January 2024, at which time there will have to be a new application for renewal. Thank you for your time and consideration. I appreciate your service very much.
May I ask a
Does
question?
anybody else wish to comment on the application? Seeing no further comments, we will close the public comment portion of the hearing, and the members of the board now to ask questions of the applicant. I prefer that you not have to.
Can we ask a question if we just spoke to that things later?
Okay, I'll.
Well, I'm just wondering, I don't know what the arrangement is here, but let's say they had children, they decided to get married, are you saying they couldn't have that kind of an event on their own property? I don't think it's within our purview to restrict so radically the way one uses one's own property. I mean, for private things. Public, it's one thing. I mean,
I would certainly defer to the board to be able to craft the appropriate language for prohibiting events from people that are not at the property.
That's not.
oh, that's different. And that seems reasonable, but you know, private events that of any kind, that seems a little bit onerous, maybe.
Well, to folks who have rented the property, you know.
Well, I mean,
I prefer
but for the people,
No,
it's
I
one.
prefer that we not have it back and forth.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tiegelman, there is a precedent for saying no special events for special events. I've seen it before.
I understand that, but I'm just asking if they had children and wanted to get married, they couldn't do it on their own property. This is what, is that yes or no?
Well, let's
Okay.
not get.
I have a question.
No.
You all do not live on the property, is that correct?
Not yet, it's only for vacation.
I'm sorry, can't hear you.
We come here in the weekend. When I live in America, we come here for weekend vacation. You want me to say something or?
I can't hear. Can you take your mask off when you're speaking? Thank you. Much appreciated.
If you allow me, can I say something? Okay. I want to, let's just try to say 3 points. The last point, I try to answer this question. The first 2, just some clarification. The first one I want to highlight, we bought this property for our enjoyment, weekend. We are living in America, roughly for the remaining time, maybe we can consider to share with other people to cover some of the costs. We have some utility, we have grass cutting, only we need to cover some costs. So that's why we want to apply for this kind of short-term rental. I think that's the background. Second one is last month, we have a lot of discussion. Also with the neighbor on my side, we have a lot of full discussion. And your colleague in planning committee give us very good suggestion. So basically, we accept our suggestion to follow the rule of protect the environment, the light, the darkness, using control the flood light, and to manage the possible noise for the community. So we did discuss it. There is something kind of precondition when we want to do a short rental, so we can put it into our short rental introduction, and also can put it into the application approval. So that's the last time. So we just follow whatever we want. We can follow. So that's the second point. Third point, I didn't mention that I think quite overlapping with last time. We can follow whatever we want to put into the introduction of short rental, and we can manage the people, 6 people overnight. Even in daytime, only my family come. We don't want to invite party for party. Last time we have mentioned that already. So it's quite clear. We are pretty flexible. The only new thing the lady mentioned is renewal in January 2024. That's new, different from last time. So all other things should be the same. So that's my quick response. First, we get here, we enjoy beauty, and share beauty, and to cover the cost. And we follow whatever we want. We want to follow requirements, not only in the pool, but also in the future short-term rental. And for any potential collaboration with neighbors, we are very happy to work. So that's my response.
Just as a background on what happened in the planning commission was that the neighbor, Ms. Maury, was there, and they all spoke to each other about what her concerns were, and the son and Yannis agreed to all the provisions, so that's what's basically here, which was her requests as a neighbor were included in the provisions by the planning commission. But she seemed everybody seemed happy with the end result. That there would be, only one house would be used. The other half, all the other things were permitted, but they're odd buildings, and they weren't permitted for residential use. That big, if you've been over there, there's a odd building to the left that was apparently going to be a place where horseback riders were going to come after riding or something, but I'm not sure that ever happened, but that was the previous owner. So there was an agreement not to use that building for any of the accessory buildings on the property, so that there would be, 6 people, which is what can you put that back up again, those conditions?
Trying to find the aerial photo.
And then there'd be, downshield, there's lighting, they're gonna put trees between the property and amplified music, and no discharge of firearms, fires. eventually a very nice buffer. Nice pine trees.
Okay, I'll interject with that right now, so we can kind of put that to rest. There are 27 cedar trees
Right.
that have been planted along that line already, which constitutes a buffer.
Right.
They're presently there. They do need to be, it would be helpful if the weeds got cleared around them because it would be healthier for the trees, but that already exists.
Okay,
So
I just
it
didn't
does not,
understand.
it does not have to be a condition because it's already there.
Right, and establishing a vegetative-free buffer, I worried that meant chopping those down or something.
No, not free, it's tree.
Vegetative-free buffer.
Tree, no, that's a T, not an F.
Vegetative tree, oh, I see, oh.
That would mean live trees, I guess, I don't know, but anyways, okay. So I was gonna say, that is one thing that does not need to be a condition because it already exists.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So in the end, we will probably, we can take that out.
Maybe you
Okay,
could say maintenance.
Maintain it.
Vegetative tree.
I think the word for establish to maintain, and that's.
Yes, maintain the existing, would be the proper word.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
I have another question. In the case that there is some issue with your guests, since you will not be there, will you be available for the Mores to contact you?
Yeah, they have a agent, working for us, management company.
Oh, you have a management,
Yeah.
excellent, thank you.
And I will interject on that because I would have a concern, which is something maybe you haven't considered, is that to my knowledge, the management company is in Colfax.
Yes.
Okay. There are management companies within Rappahannock County because I deal with short-term rentals, I'm maintenance for people and whatever, and so I'm part of their process, but people have to be readily available, which is, so if there's a problem with the property, whatever, somebody can be there in 5 or 10 minutes.
I see.
And so, I would actually make this a recommendation that the management company be, within 10 minutes of the property, and that way, if the people have a problem, they're not waiting an hour or whatever, or the next morning, that's part of the business or whatever, to have people readily available. And most of the places I work with, the people that manage the properties are, a lot of them are within 5 minutes away. They're local residents or whatever that have agreed to do this for the people. So that would be actually a condition I would put on the thing that the owners are not present on the property, that the management be within the local jurisdiction.
No, that's great. We have a same idea to get a very local management company, but we can't find them in this area. Do you have any recommendation?
That's not for me to do right now, but I can perhaps help you with that. I mean, there are real estate people around or whatever that can help you out.
So we have that.
That's illegal.
That's a business in this kind of a
Yeah,
community.
that's great.
Julie, any comments? Questions?
How do you intend to use the accessory dwelling or not dwelling, the building?
Yes, that's the number 3, the point number 3. We will use it only for entertainment, some physical exercise. There is a large lobby, accessory building. We just want to walk in to do some exercise. Because in a main building, no place for exercise. Some people do that. So
So you're
no
gonna make-
residential, no residential.
So just a gym, you're gonna make it a gym?
Yes.
Okay, I've been out there twice. I was actually out there today. Number one, you bought the property that has a lot of problems in its history. But I don't think we can hold you responsible for the problems that come with the property. And in all honesty, I mean, there were many people in the county that were aware of the problems that were going on out there. It was during the construction, and there was a breakdown on the county's part. The county was also made aware of that, and nothing was done. And so to hold you responsible for those things is not something that I don't think we can do. And although, I don't know what you're gonna do with all that stuff out there, because, I mean, there's here and there. My understanding was that the people that were doing the construction were living on the property when it was being constructed. That was part of their being paid or whatever. And then they left and all the little structures stayed there. On the accessory building, I looked at that because square footage wise, it's close to the same size as the house. And I see that as an invitation for a lot of problems, even though you're trying to do the right thing. And that we're looking at a permit for 6 people. The house itself and the porches and the decks and everything are more than sufficient space for 6 people to have an enjoyable weekend. And I feel that if we allow the permit to extend over to that auxiliary building, that you would have people that would come in being aware of that, and the situations would occur that Ms. Smith was referring to, is that suddenly a whole bunch of people show up for a get-together, and it can get out of hand or whatever, and that's, I don't think that's what you want, and I know that's not what the county wants and not what the neighbors want. So my feeling on the application is that the application will be for the house only. And what you do with the auxiliary building is entirely up to you, and for your personal use, that's your personal property. You can do whatever you want with it. But as far as a permit or short-term rentals or whatever, the permit would be strictly for the house. Would you be agreeable with that?
So you mean you get rid of the number 3, right?
What?
We have this, that's not. You have number 3.
You're correct.
I would say that, it's not part of the rental, it's not part of the rental, and it would be, basically, it's gonna be locked when the rental people go. It doesn't, I've looked in there, and it's, like I said, for 6 people, there is, on a rental, plus it's going to be less maintenance for you all, is that it's, if people are going to rent the place, that building is not going to be a factor unless they have the idea of let's have a big party, and so that eliminates that possibility.
I would agree with that.
What are the facilities in that building?
Can you think of it?
What kind of facilities, utilities are in that building?
There's a kitchen, there's a bathroom, a large meeting, party, event, it's an event center.
Yeah.
It was designed to be an event center, I believe. How they got, that's up to, how you let all that happen, I don't know, but that's what's there. But yes, it's obvious when you look at it, it's an event center. So that would not be part of the permit.
But we can just put a rule on the short-term rental platform, saying that no party allowed. And no
That's all well and good to say, but in reality, and if you look at the history of these short-term rentals on Airbnb or whatever, they have a problem with that, in that somebody rents a space and suddenly at 8 o'clock on Saturday night or whatever, 200 people show up, and there's a large party that gets out of hand or whatever, and that's what we want to ensure doesn't happen here. And like I said, I don't think it wouldn't affect your ability to rent the property. But you can use it, and quite honestly, in regards to your personal use of the property, it is your property. If you want to have a bunch of people over, it's just like people, you know, they have barns or whatever on their property, and they wanna have, you know, a get-together with a number of people or whatever, that's your right as a private property owner. So no, we can't take that away from you. But we don't want the option to be available for people that do not own the property. And we talked about the management of the three other things. I would ask you about, looking at the outside of the building or whatever, I see no indication that there's any kind of phone service that comes to the house.
No online.
No landline. Only cell phone, but do you have any kind of boosters or anything? Because my cell phone, I was there today, I got zip. My cell phone would not work there.
Yeah, we have internet.
What?
So we can use our cell.
You can use your cell phone, but the point I'm making is that, like I said, I'm on AT&T.
T-Mobile.
But my cell phone does not work there. And what you have to understand out here is that when people come from, you know, urban areas or whatever, they're used to their cell phone working. If they come out here, rent your place or whatever for the weekend, they have an emergency, they look at their cell phone and nothing's happening. And I mean, you may have a life and death situation going on and you can't dial 911. We don't want that to happen here. So, and we in the past have required short-term rentals to have some reliable form of telephone service. So in your case, because where it's located, it's currently in a dead zone. So to have a landline run to the house, so there is a working telephone there, so if people have an emergency, they can pick up the phone and dial 911, and somebody will show up.
You can't you can't guarantee that your tenants will have the proper cell service to have emergency services available. And it's critical if your house catches on fire, that your tenants be able to call the fire department. I think that's in your best interest.
On my question, can we install a landline phone over there? Can we do that? Do we have a service? It's very far away.
That could be, I don't know if it's, I don't know what it is out there, whether it's Verizon or whatever, but they're obligated. I mean, if you request it, you know, under the, you know, it may not be the most reliable service, but it's there. And to a certain extent, from a liability standpoint on your end, in that, you know, to not have that available to people could put you in a precarious situation at some point in time if you didn't provide the renters with the ability to contact emergency services.
Okay, so we can check.
Yeah, or I mean, if you can put in some sort of a cell booster or whatever that would work off of Wi-Fi that they could connect into, and basically you need instructions on there on rentals on how to tap into the Wi-Fi phone service. That also would be, you know, acceptable.
Right now, there's satellite internet. Does it work? Satellite
Okay.
internet. We have.
Okay, and you may be, yeah, I mean, you may be able to tap into that on Wi-Fi and then have a phone for your, right.
It's called Qubits. Qubits is a company.
Yeah.
We have that.
So we want that. Another thing on it that I noticed today was that the address is hard, you know, it's on the mailbox, but it's really not very visible. And what we have, you may have seen it around the county or whatever, are they're blue or green, and they're reflective, so at night, emergency services going down the road, the headlights, you know, see the address thing. So post one of those on in your case, you know, post it on your side of the road, because your phone, I mean, your mailbox right now is on the opposite side of the road, and which you may not even use, but anyhow, just, you know, to mark it clearly for emergency services so that they can find that location.
Plus, it's also a problem around here. new people coming into a property, they may not know exactly which property it is, and they go on the wrong driveway and bother the neighbors, and the neighbors get all grumpy, and so it's better if you're well defined.
Yeah, we have, we have put some larger mark, along the driveway.
It's hard to miss the horses, hasn't
Okay.
So we go through the planning commission's recommendations line by line,
Yeah.
and then also review these new conditions, before we visit the findings.
Right.
So the planning commission recommendations include a maximum of 6 people in the main dwelling. Is that amenable to everybody?
Yes.
We are striking.
Actually, I would change it to dwelling, because we're not, if there's only gonna be the permit, unless the board doesn't want to go with it, it's gonna be issued for the house only.
I think it makes sense because number 3 right now says the use of the accessory recreational building inside the house is limited to recreational use. We can just modify that to say is expressly prohibited.
Right.
So, I think the main dwelling is appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah, because there is that trailer.
Oh, there's numerous, I mean, you go back into the weeds there's numerous structures out there that are habitable to, for certain people.
I like being explicit with the main dwelling.
Right.
Is everybody okay with
Yes,
that?
and actually, I think to put in wording that the permit is for the main dwelling only.
Yes, that's what number 2 is. Number 4 is outside lighting shall be down shielded.
Right.
We're all fine with that. 5 is no unrestrained pets permitted outside.
I don't agree with that. And actually looking at the property, for the most part, it's wire fence on all 4 sides.
I've never
And if
seen
people
such a
bring their
condition.
dogs, and I mean, it's country, you want to fetch the dog or whatever, I think that's.
I think the
too
concern
restrictive.
there was that maybe the dogs that have been at that property chase the noise and livestock.
Looking at the fence, I don't see how that's a problem. You can put it out.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, that fence is a standard wire fence. Dogs are not able to access the Maury's property.
I've heard dogs that can get over that wire fence.
Well, the board might have dogs that go the other way. I think that's being too restrictive on, if that should apply to the people that are visiting, then it would also have to, should apply to the owners.
How about
So,
we change the wording and instead of saying unrestrained, we change the word to unattended?
I'll agree with that. Okay, yes.
That way I could just stand at the window paying attention, you're good, but you gotta keep your eye on it.
Yeah, absolutely, yes, right, I'll go along with that.
Okay, no unattended pets permitted outside, number 6. Establishment, we're changing to maintenance of vegetative tree buffer with the
No,
neighboring property
make it existing.
of existing.
The maintenance of existing vegetation.
Okay, moving on to 7, no amplified music outside and no outdoor music or excessive noise after 10 p.m. I'm fine with that.
There again, when you get into amplified music, if you're sitting on the deck with your Siri speaker or whatever, just listening to music and enjoying, what you're looking at or whatever, we're saying that would not be possible.
Listen to the radio, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's.
And other than that, I mean, if you only have 6 people, you're not gonna have a rock and roll band on the deck. Unless it happens to be a rock and roll band that rents the place, and the odds of that are slimly done. But, there are certain things that, on these short-term rentals that are, I think overly restrictive, and you have to consider whether, the property over there. It may be the owners that are there that weekend, and they can't go out on their own deck and listen to the radio.
Yeah, can't listen to NPR.
To me, amplified implies an amplifier.
Yeah, because there's, we can clarify that, no?
Well, but that's, I mean,
Words right now.
an amplifier, but that's what, you
Well,
know,
I mean, we
an
could say,
amplifier can be this big.
no more than a
about no
two-on
loud- no
amplifier
loud
or
music?
something like that.
Yeah, I'll go with no loud music, that's.
No loud music is
Right.
right. I mean, you know,
Amplified seems more
it's also
specific to
subjective.
me.
Well, what if they were out there singing? Raucously.
Well, like, sorry,
You know, I'm just trying to be realistic on the conditions that we put on these. And the fact that we don't tend, you know, I can't think of any other recently permits that we've issued where we've had that restriction.
We did at the Chester Gap Baptist Church. It was an explicit condition. Yes.
Yes, but that was, I agree with that, and that was a little different though, in that was not a family type rental situation or whatever, that was gonna be used as an event center, and that's what we were referring to use it in regards to an event center.
At the end of the day, it's very hard for the county, or especially us, to enforce a lot of these
That's
things,
it,
to be
yes.
honest with you. But I think they're good guidelines for you to communicate in the guidelines
Yeah,
and the
that's
rules
right.
to your
Yeah.
guests.
It's something you can tell your tenants.
You're not gonna have the sheriff's department knocking on your door if they have music, but hopefully this is what you'll communicate to your guests as far as expectations.
How about excessive noise?
Please, or, you know, in your thing, please respect the rights of the neighbors and limit your, you know, use of the deck, to before 10 o'clock or, you know.
I suggest we leave the planning commission recommendation as is.
Yeah, well, the only thing bothers me about it is it looks like when it says no amplified music outside, and no outdoor music or excessive noise after 10 p.m. It looks like no amplified music outside ever. And I don't think we should say that, because, you know.
Yeah, it depends on how you read it.
Right.
And then,
So
yes, but actually, the way it reads right now, it's all after 10 o'clock.
Yeah,
If you
or
read the sentence-
excessive
Right,
noise.
right,
How
right.
about this, no amplified music outside or excessive noise after 10 p.m.
That sounds good.
I'll go with that. And they're not allowed to.
That way it doesn't sound like
If they're playing music.
you can't play music everywhere.
I'm good with that, Sharon. I'm good. 8, house rules shall reflect the special use permit conditions, we can all agree to that. 9, no outdoor fires.
Okay, there's another one that I would question in that. One of the things, particularly with your situation, with 6 people, you're trying to work with families to come out. And bring the kids out to the country or whatever, and you wanna sit outside and make s'mores and roast marshmallows over the fire or whatever. I don't see a problem with that. There seems to be with some folks or whatever, that people that come from the city or whatever have no idea how to build a fire.
Right, or how to.
And that's not true, because there are, you know, most of the fire problems we have around here are created by locals, not people that are visiting. I mean, it's just, you know, fires can get out of control, but I would recommend, in regards to the no outdoor fires, is that outdoor fires will be in a fire pit, so you buy one of the contained type fire pit things, so that they've got a place to put logs in or whatever and build a fire, but it's contained to it.
Plus, you need fire extinguishers available for the house anyway, and they should be able to be accessible to people outside. And it would be nice if we had a hose function, so I'm sure you could have.
Oh, yeah, like that.
How about instead of no outdoor fires are contained and controlled?
Yeah.
Moving forward, 10, no discharge of firearms.
I'll just think of that.
I'm fine with that. 11, no food service will be offered to renters of the facility, this is standard. this permit terminates upon sale or transfer of the property, that's standard. Now to the additional ones that I've heard tonight.
Reliable phone service.
Maintained because they already have, some type of broadband, it sounds like. And Ron, you mentioned the requirement for a local management company. I'm not sure if I agree with that. I'm just interested
I
in
don't
the
think
other.
that's appropriate.
Yeah, I don't think that's appropriate either.
Let's just say that would be prudent, we can't ask for that, but it would be prudent.
Yeah, we recommend it, yeah, to find something.
Very highly.
I don't think it's a condition.
If somebody can get there, the difference between somebody getting there in an hour and somebody getting there in an emergency, it's your
Well,
property would be in your interest.
Company might have somebody that's closer.
You may want to terminate somebody's rental agreement quite rapidly at some point. It would be good to have a representative there to do that.
I did agree with, Ms. Smith's recommendation of no events, as far as your special use permit goes. Are you amenable to that?
Yeah, no,
Well, that-
for the renters though. I mean,
That would make a special event
if they have a permit anyways, you know.
Just, a lot of people wanna come out here to do weddings. And so if it's expressly put on.
I mean, if it's their own family, it's one thing, but having,
We're
hiring out
talking
the
about
wedding.
people who rent it for as a tourist, no events.
Right, for the renters, yes. We can't, we can't have them and not have birthdays.
I will agree with that, and I think that should become another one of the standards that we put on all the applications.
I agree. Ms. Smith also recommended two more that I'd like to discuss with the board on their thoughts. I'm not sure, based on all of these conditions we've already discussed, that a term on the approval is appropriate.
I agree.
Any other thoughts?
I think this, I think it's very small property, it's very close to your neighbors, it does have all these other buildings. I personally would feel more comfortable if we did put a term with enough, we could come back and review it. And if there have been no problems, that would go.
I don't think you can do
Twenty
that.
twenty-four.
We can't do a review, we can do a term on
Yeah.
that permit.
Then you have to start the whole.
Yes, we'll have to pay the application fee again.
There again, I mean,
If I may ask to be recognized, I don't mean to
no,
interrupt.
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Chairman.
we're discussing it here.
Okay.
You understand that you.
I
you're up
did,
here.
if I may speak at some point, that would be much appreciated.
Anyways, it's, that restriction is another one where, I don't see, particularly if they do not have use of the accessory building, that's out of the picture. Then it's no different than any of the other short-term requests that we get, and unless that also is going to become a part of all of the permits that we issue, that we,
I agree, based on the narrow scope that we've defined,
yeah, I don't see, I think that's an undue,
Also.
because there's vested, there's been a certain amount of vesting in putting this operation together. And to then have to come back in 2 years with anything that may be taken away. Like I said, unless we start doing that with everybody, I can't see.
I also think if there's a problem, we'll probably hear about it.
We can always take back a permit. That's our purview. So if there are complaints or problems or whatever, it comes before us and we can revoke the permit.
is the general census of the board in
I
terms.
I'm agreeing with the majority.
Okay, and lastly, the cap of the number of people on the property. Thoughts on that?
It's,
That was for the dwelling.
No, Mrs. Smith recommended a cap.
it's not enforceable. It's not enforceable. I mean, you can put it in there, but who do you call?
Well, We've
The deed
stated
already
no,
comes over and
we've
knows
stated
that.
no special events. We've stated only use of the primary dwelling. We've stated only 6 people in the dwelling.
Yeah, it's a permit for 6 people, that's it, you know.
Okay. Do we need to recap these conditions? Right, I'm gonna run through them real quick one more time. It seems we have all coalesced around a max of 6 people in the main dwelling. Use of the accessory recreational building beside the house is expressly prohibited. Actually, we're gonna say use of all accessory buildings are expressly
Yes,
prohibited.
put it that way. From the house rules.
Outside lighting shall be done shielded. No unrestrained pets on property has now been. No unattended pets. Maintenance of existing buffer with neighboring property. No amplified music outside, and no outdoor music or excessive noise after 10 p.m. was modified to no amplified music outside or excessive noise after 10 p.m. House rules shall reflect the special use permit conditions. Outdoor fires are contained and controlled. No discharge of firearms. No food service will be offered to renters of the facility. The permit terminates upon sale or transfer of the property. Maintain phone service and or internet. No special events. I think that's all of it. Can we make the findings with these conditions? In section 17052 general standards, 17053 condition and restrictions.
Yeah, I think we've covered, basically all of those areas of the discussion that we've had.
Well, yeah, the
We don't
general.
really need to go through those, unless the board wants to.
There's something we missed.
Maybe we could just say generally that the proposed use shall not adversely affect the use or development of neighboring properties and shall be in accordance with applicable zoning district regulations, location, size, height of buildings, structures, walls and fences, nature and extent of screening, buffering, and landscape shall be such that the use will not hinder or discourage appropriate development and or use of adjacent or nearby land, and then the following,
Yeah.
the general standards, the standards of the fair.
I was gonna say, there's no traffic problems to speak of, no parking problems, signage is regulated. They can put up a sign, but it have to be very small. Future impact, not really. Air quality, no. Unsafe conditions, no. Yeah, I think, as far as the findings go, I think we covered all those.
I move we pass it with,